ሶስቱን የኢቢኤስ ቴሌቪዥን ቻናሎችን በሮኩ ቲቪ ይመልከቱ። እንዲሁም በስልኮ በኮምፒውተሩ አሊያም በቴሌቪዥኑ ሰብስክራይብ ያድርጉ። ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? እንግዲህ በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን ልክ እንዳለፈው ሳምንት በቅርብ ጊዜ በዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ተዘጋጅቶ ከነበረው Empower the Community Weekend ከሚለው ዝግጅታችን ካረግነው ቆይታ ቀንጨብ አድርገን የምናሳያችሁን ዝግጅት እየቀጠልን ነው። ዛሬ ደግሞ የምናሳያችሁ ሶስት የተለያዩ ፓነል ዲስከሽንስ የተደረጉትን ነው። እነዚህ ውይይቶች ሶስቱም በእንግሊዝኛ ነው የተደረጉት። ዋና ፍሬያቸውን በደንብ ከተናጋሪዎቻችን አንደበት እንድትሰሙ እንዳለ ነው ይሄንን ፕሮግራም እናቀርብላችሁ። በመጀመሪያ የምትመለከቱት ውይይት The Power of Civic Engagement ከሚለው ዝግጅት ላይ ነው። በዚህ ዝግጅት ላይ ቀርበው ውይይት ያደረጉት እንግዶቻችን በመጀመሪያ ዶክተር መና ደምሴ Senior Vice President እና for Policy and Research በCongressional Black Caucus Foundation ውስጥ ናት። አቶ ሄኖክ ዶሪ is Policy Advisor በኦባማ ፋውንዴሽን ውስጥ፣ ዮዲት ተወልደ Criminal Defense Attorney በተለያዩ የመገናኛ ብዙሃን CNN፣ ፋክስ በመሳሰሉት እዚህ ሀገር ይህን የክሪሚናል ዲፌንስን በተመለከቱ ጉዳዮች ቀርባ ንግግር የምታደርግ ጠበቃ ናት። እንደዚሁም ደግሞ ወርቁ ጋቹ is a political analyst ኮቨንተን በሚባል ኩባንያ ውስጥ ነው። ይህንን ደግሞ ዝግጅት ሞዴሬት የምታደርግልን ወይዘሪት ሉሊት ሞላናት። እስቲ ወደዛ ልሰዳችሁ።
Welcome everyone. We're so excited to have all of you here to share your wisdom and knowledge with us. So let's address probably the biggest thing on everyone's mind right now, the current political climate. Things are intense. Every day we hear something on the news of some minority group or some group being attacked or some law or policy being changed. This might be new for our communities just because we may not have identified with the history or the politics of this country for as long as other groups in the United States. What are some issues that come to your mind that impacts the Abesha East African community? And then how do you see people engaging?
So great question. I think it's not serendipitous that this Empower Community Weekend's happening here in DC, home to the largest population of Ethiopians outside of Ethiopia, as well as a robust African community that has contributed significantly to the economy here. And I think what's important is to note that our issues are not only in terms of US foreign policy or democratic governance abroad, but first and second generation Ethiopians, Eritreans, Africans here, we have issues that stem from rights and benefits to health care, equity and education, fighting police brutality. And then when we talk about things like immigration, in many ways it's been reduced to this issue of border disputes between Mexico and the US, as if it doesn't affect our community in many ways. And so these cross-cutting issues, we have to see ourselves coalition building more and still kind of remaining vocal in the international space, but also giving voice to the issues that concern our friends, families every day. Despite what anyone tells us, affect Abesha communities, they affect African communities, and so we need to give rise to those issues.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about it in terms of the criminal justice system. In the courthouse, I go to the courthouse every day. I see a lot of Habeshas in the courthouse, some who have a language barrier, so we almost are hit with a double whammy. We're black, and then we're also immigrants, right? So in order to understand the process, you have to empower yourself with the knowledge, okay? That's the only way you're gonna get around the system, and understand that black issues here are the same as African issues. They're not separate. We're all the same at the end of the day. So I guess the point of my spiel here is that you have to empower yourself with your rights. That's the only way you're gonna be able to maneuver yourself through this entire system that we call the criminal justice system.
And just to add on to that as well, I think, so a lot of what we're talking about here is getting involved and being engaged, and that's also the purpose of this panel. And I think a large part of it comes down to how you frame your view of these things. And a lot of times when people hear civic engagement, participation, it's seen as a burden of some sort, or it's seen as an obligation. I think one thing that our community needs to do is to understand that civic engagement is not necessarily an obligation. It is a form of power. It's a form of privilege. So a lot of the times it can be overwhelming to learn more about this system or to get involved, whether it's, community service, whether it's activism, but it shouldn't be seen as an obligation. And the more that we see it as a form of empowerment, collectively as a community, the more we're going to see the results of that engagement producing the outcomes that we as a community want.
In what ways do you advise our communities to get involved, to build community, to build this power that you all talk of, while still considering our unique background and circumstances?
So, you see civic engagement as the topic of this panel. I think, unfortunately, we have discussed this issue within the context of voting, showing up at the voting booth and voting your voice. I think voting and civic engagement involves a lot more than just elections. And so to your point, at a very local level, there are many ways to be involved. I think the first thing is to debunk or demystify the idea that you have to create this grandiose organization and be seen with really high-profile folks to make a change. Empowering things that I had done for myself was just be informed about what was going on with the DC City Council. Once I started getting involved with my African brothers and sisters that live in the district, we noticed that the Mayor's Office of African Affairs here in DC did not have independent grant-making authority for African community-based nonprofits and organizations to apply for funding. And so as I learned, this was unfortunate because the Mayor's Office of Asian Affairs and Hispanic and Latino Affairs had an immense budget, and they were giving money all to their community-based organizations. So a lot of us thought this didn't make any sense. So we organized, just 4 of us, and decided to do something about it. We did our homework in terms of knowing exactly how much the mayor's office should be allocated in terms of their budget. And when we showed up to those council members' offices, they were so scared because we looked so organized and we all were consistent in our voice and demands. And one thing I'll say about our community is I love our community. We show up and we show out when it comes to protest politics, right? And we know how to make noise. But we have to also know what it is we're asking for in one voice. And long story short, they passed the policy to allow for independent grant-making authority, along with an increased budget that exists to this day. It's been a few years now, so any of you in this audience that have a nonprofit or want to apply for funding so you can work in the district, go to the mayor's office website. And so these are examples. There's several out there of things you can do at a very local level that have long-term positive impact for the community. You don't have to show up to vote just in the general elections, but what you do at a state and local level is just as impactful, if not more so.
Okay, so civic engagement for me, in terms of what I do every day, is jury duty. I'm gonna ask a question. I want you guys to be honest. Raise your hand if you've gotten summoned for jury duty before. How many of you showed up? How many of you tried to get out of jury duty? I get calls from my friends who say, hey, I got a letter, I gotta go to court, they're asking me to do jury duty. How do I get out of it? And you know what I do? I hang up. That pisses me off. Let me tell you why. If I'm representing somebody, a black or brown individual, and I have 36 people I need to choose from, and all of them are white, I have a problem. Actually, my client has a problem, right? He wants to be judged by a jury of his peers. And if he sees nobody that looks like him that can, receive evidence within the context of their own experience that's similar to my client, then he's in trouble. So one of the things that I ask you guys to do is not try to get out of jury duty. You get that summons, you go. You go, and you could potentially get on a jury, and you could potentially, even out the playing field, okay? And I also want us to not just vote for people when they're running for office. I see the efforts that people made to create this event, how many people came out. Habeshas stick together. I want to see Habeshas in position of power. That's what I want to see. So I want to see more Habeshas that are judges. I want to see more Habeshas that are lawyers. I want to see Habeshas as police officers. That's what I want to see. And then we could collectively support each other in that way. Now, we can't vote for Habeshas, though, unless we're registered to vote, right? And in order to vote, you've got to be a citizen, right? Is everybody in here citizens? Raise your hand if you're a citizen. I see some hands that aren't up, so what are we waiting on? So that I want to see that happen. I want to see us in positions of power, and that way we can not only be strong individually, but we could be strong collectively.
Just to the panel's earlier point about engaging outside of only election day. I think, we talk about how strong the fabric is of the community, how well connected. I think one thing that our community doesn't do as well is actually fundraise and donate to candidates that we think have a potential, ones that we see, care about our issues. If you look at our pool here, it doesn't need to be these big dollar super PACs, but small local communities organizing, collecting small dollars, and as a group deciding to give money to a particular candidate, will create opportunities to engage with the public officials, will create opportunities that will open doors where your issues are heard. I mean, it's a kind of unspoken thing in politics, but money's important, and I think the folks here on the panel who have been in politics can also attest. So I think there's this, I don't want to say intimidation, but some sort of fear and kind of a pullback from actually the community organizing and collecting funds and picking candidates that can be an advocate for you, that can be an advocate for your particular issues.
Thank you. I will say that while some of us cannot become citizens because of immigration circumstances, I do appreciate that we're also talking about all of the good our community can bring to civic engagement. We are proud people. We support each other. We do have deep connections. So let's talk about how we can build on those foundational assets of community. Can you speak to how our folks are involved and are leading movements or change in this country? So, Menna, I'll start with you.
We all have different fortes, right? We have protesters who know how to make noise and get the cameras. We've got lawyers in the courtroom. We have experts in the policy space, in the foreign policy space. And we have people like Henoch Dory and Johannes Abraham who did incredible work under the Obama, I'm telling you, under the Obama administration to lift up the importance and visibility of our communities. Some of you may have heard about the White House under Obama held its first Ethiopian American policy briefing because not because they had to, but because Henoch and Johannes used their time to say, I care about my identity and I'm going to use my position in ways that advance my community. And so those are the kinds of examples that you may not think are massive in nature, but at every moment you have a chance to lift up your community, do it, because it has reverberating consequences for us the next time we go around. We want to normalize our integration into the American political system, whether you're a spokesperson on TV, someone in the courtroom, as I said. And so we have to also not be independent about that. We have to coalition build, lift our brothers and sisters up. Please do not fall into the stereotype of I want to be the token Habesha that's the only person in this space, or I'm Ethiopian and gonna, talk about my Eritrean brothers and sisters or my African brothers and sisters, or vice versa, right? We really need to lift that up, and that's one of many ways that we can positively affect our community.
What Mena forgot to mention was that she was also very instrumental in helping us get that event off the ground last year, and it was one of the most. I've never been so proud as I was at that moment of bringing the community together in a building like that at a time like that. One of the reason why we decided to put that event on is because we recognize, well, one, we're proud of our community, we love our community, and two, we recognize the potential of so many people throughout the community. We have industry leaders across a variety of sectors who are making change in academics, medicine, government, law, entertainment, business, whatever you think of. We have an advocate in each of those sectors. We have the potential, but we need that sense of exigency. We need to have that sense that we can make that change, and that type of achievement is a possibility. It's not impossible. You just have to take advantage of the resources that you have within your community, organize, and turn it into action. It's there. We just got to find some way to tap into it.
This event here, take advantage of it. He says, yes, we have the capabilities, we have the potential, but we also need the tools, right? Connect with people. Own your strength and say, this is what I do. What can you do? Let's see how we can combine our efforts, because we're stronger in numbers. We can make such an impact, and we'd be so powerful as a community. And it also takes a lot of mentoring. I mentor Habeshas because they need to see people in positions like ours to actually realize that this is capable. Because I didn't just think one day, let me just go to law school. No, I had people that were there before me that showed me, hey, you can do this because I'm doing it. It takes to see an example to know that, you know what, I could do that too. So I'm glad that all of you have come here today, because that's a major, major step. So I'm gonna let him talk, but I want to see a lot of y'all come up to me and ask me stuff, because I want to know more about y'all.
I spend my day working with companies, helping them try to navigate sub-Saharan Africa. And on a handful of occasions, on multiple times, I've come through numerous Ethiopian Americans that are setting up companies, setting up businesses back home in Ethiopia. And I think along with that economic growth aspect of it, along with helping people's livelihoods, along with helping people better themselves, I think what's important with that is also the skills transfer and the knowledge transfer that happens with these transactions. So I think, we talk about some of the unknown leaders within our community. I think it's those people that make a conscious decision that, hey, if I'm going to establish this company, if I'm going to try to make this product, why not look to establishing it in Ethiopia?
Thank you. And I want to thank the organizers of this incredible event, Helen, for inviting all of us today so that we can connect and build with one another. A quote that we say in movement is that it is our duty to love one another. It is our duty to fight. We have nothing to lose, but a lot to gain. That is an Aseta Shakur quote. So I hope that we can navigate this day and navigate this conference and really navigate civic engagement with one another with that spirit. So thank you, and we look forward to getting to know you more.
ሶስቱን የኢቢኤስ ቴሌቪዥን ቻናሎችን በሮኩ ቲቪ ይመልከቱ። እንዲሁም በስልኮ በኮምፒውተሩ አሊያም በቴሌቪዥኑ ሰብስክራይብ ያድርጉ።
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ፕሮግራማችን እየቀጠለ ነው። በኤምፓወር ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ላይ ከተዘጋጀው ዝግጅት ፓነል ዲስከሽን የምናሳያችሁን ቆይታ እየቀጠልን ነው። አሁን ደግሞ የምናሳያችሁ ቢዝነስ ሊደር ስፒክ የሚለው ውይይት ላይ ነው። በዚህ ውይይት ላይ የቀረቡት አራት እንግዶች ናቸው። እነዚህን አራት እንግዶች ደግሞ እኔ ነኝ ማደሬት ያደረኩት ይህንን ቆይታ። በዚህ በቢዝነስ ሊደር ስፒክ በሚለው ፓነል ላይ ቀርቦ የነበሩት እንግዶቻችን በመጀመሪያ ፕሮፌሰር መስከረም ታደሰ ከካሊፎርኒያ ማለት ነው፣ አቶ አሮን በትሩ ማኔጂንግ ዳይሬክተር አት ሚልከን ኢንስቲትዩት፣ አቶ ስለሺ መንግስቴ ቫይስ ፕሬዚደንት በሬሚንግተን ሆቴልስ ግሩፕ ውስጥ ነው። እንደዚሁም ደግሞ አቶ ተፈሪ ገብሬ ሲኒየር ኤግዜኪቲቭ ቫይስ ፕሬዚደንት በኤኤፍኤል ሲአይኦ የሚባለው ዩኒየን ኦርጋናይዜሽን ነው። እስቲ ወደዛ ቆይታ ደግሞ ልሰዳችሁ። The reason why we wanted to do this panel discussion is there are many Ethiopian American, Eritrean American, Somalian American successful individuals in the business space, but we really are not where we should be. And so we want to have these business leaders here with us. And so I want to kick it off by asking, how do you define success? What does it mean to you? First of all, as Ethiopian American or, as an immigrant, and also just plain in the corporate space, how would you define success? I don't know if I could start with you.
In all of my different fields that I've ever been in, I think for me success translates into a mixture of three different things.
Okay.
One, is it something that actually translates into monetary side of things? So is it something that actually enriches myself or enriches other individuals? And third, is it something that actually enriches the institutions that I engage in? It's a mixture of all of those three in terms of how I would say something is successful.
Thank you. I think many people define success many different ways. I haven't heard many, but the most important thing is success is the life that you wanted to live or deserve, but not the one that you are conditioned for. And also touching other people's life. Yes, it's about the power, it's about the money. Those are not defined as success. But really, if you're touching other people's life and you really are set for a bigger success that you're looking for and you're living that life, I'm satisfied more on that than much of the money, much of the power.
First, thank you, Helen, and thank you everyone for being here. To me, in order for you to determine success, one has to decide what it is that you want to work on. Often when we talk about success, we define it by what people think of us. Do people think we're successful? We're rich, we're famous. I think success has got to be looked from within. First, you have to know what it is that you want to be, what it is you want to do, and then measure in your life whether you have achieved that and how well you're doing. And I say that because once someone said popularity is people liking you, happiness is you liking you. And so, to me, in order for you to consider success, first set a goal in your life, do something that you really want to do, and be happy doing it. And outside people will see you as successful because you'll be good at it, but inside you will also be thinking you're successful because you are happy doing it.
Success for me is if every worker is respected for the work they do and honored, that the work they do is honored, and they get what their labor's worth is. And that has been my lifelong devotion, and that's what I always strive to. And success for me would be that every worker gets an opportunity to sit across the table from their employer and negotiate what's rightfully theirs.
Was there a career plan or strategy for you? You all are highly successful in your industries. Was there a career plan or strategy or early investment that you did in your career to help you to get to where you are? So Aaron, I'll start with you again.
Thank you. I guess I'll tell a story of something that happened to me at graduate school. And I was fortunate that I did a dual degree. One degree was here in Washington, D.C. with Johns Hopkins at SAIS, and then shortly afterwards I went on to do an MBA at Columbia in New York. And when I showed up at Columbia, the dean of the business school said something, look, if you have a choice to be made between spending an extra hour to getting honors in your class or spending that hour getting to know your fellow classmates, do the latter. Essentially, the networks that you build in these institutions, that is what actually it takes to climb, to grow. So I would say it took a conscious effort at one point in my life where I realized the strength of becoming more successful wasn't going to be predicated on whether or not I was the most knowledgeable in that technical matter. It was really realizing that I needed to have a multiplier effect by having the strengths of a bunch of people around me. And so it shifted from being managing a task to managing people. For our community, one of the hardest things is when we get together, we rarely ask the question, what do you do? We seem to be scared to embarrass someone or not, and just being comfortable enough to say, I want to know what you do, because you plus me will probably better together, is an automatic thing. And that is a skill set that the community needs to really invest heavily on, because that's the only way we will jump ahead, is if we act more as a group.
I agree. That's an excellent point. Seleshi, what would you add to that?
Yes, sometimes in life you have to take one step backwards and move two steps forward. When I came to this country, I came in with solid hotel experience as well as a hotel degree. And I chose to do night manager position. At that point, what I wanted to do is first build my network, build my education level further, so that I'm not the person who's going to remain as night manager. So I intelligently took the night manager position, went to graduate school. I learned a lot. I learned the culture. It was easy for me to move up from that on. I think in our community, what we're afraid is, A, selling ourselves. We're not that good in selling ourselves. Even though we have the educational background, we have the experience, we don't talk about ourselves clearly or articulate ourselves to the world. And that would keep us down from that. Second part is we're also afraid of networking. Either we are intimidated by it, we are introvert when we are grown up, but we have to be extrovert. We need to look at the traits, the new trends, how we can improve. We can learn from the others by networking. And having a mentorship it's critical for the growth of anybody's career. So that's what I did. I built my network. I had a mentor that I followed, and that was easy for me to do that. And of course, I took one step backwards to move forward. And I think that is an experience that I can share with everybody to move on.
That's great. Professor, what could you add to that?
Great. So you asked early on, I came to the United States to go to high school. And so for an Ethiopian young woman, if I sit here and tell you I had this intelligent strategy, I would not be telling the truth. However, I'm going to give a shout out to my father. He wrote me a letter. And the letter said, my child, don't spend too much time bragging about heredity and where you came from. He said in his letter, decide who you want to become and give birth to that child. And that was the advice he gave me. And so I took that hard. And so I decided to do everything the best way I know how. I wanted to be good at what I did, and I also wanted to be good and likable. As my colleague just said, it can't be just about you. It has to be about what you do to optimize and help and grow others. And so be a good citizen, be a good community member, be good at what you do, and success will really follow you because people will point to you.
All right.
some of us were really forced into figuring it out for ourselves. I came here when I was 15 years old in the 80s, and my mom didn't come with me, my father didn't come with me. I was in a refugee camp in the Sudan, and I came here by myself, and I was dropped off in LA, and I had to figure it out at a young age. Because of that, I had to meet new people, network with new people, depend on people to actually take care of me in this country. And when you are living a second or a third life, from going through a desert to a refugee camp and coming as a child into this country, then life becomes precious and you don't want to waste any of it. And because of that, I have been lucky in running into good people. I was an athlete, and I have great coaches who adopted me as my parents. So none of us are made by ourselves. We are made of that people we run into by opportunity. So you're gonna run into me today. You're gonna run into her, him, all of us. So if you think you can't get anything out of us, don't let this opportunity go by. And hopefully we can get something out of you too. But I agree with everybody here. We are a proud people, and we don't want to show our weaknesses. And because of that, we don't want to expose ourselves to our brothers and sisters. But if we don't do that, really, it's very hard for someone to come and help us out when we need something. So let's take advantage of it. And Helen, really congratulations on putting this and bringing all of us in here and giving us this opportunity to do
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
ሶስቱን የኢቢኤስ ቴሌቪዥን ቻናሎችን በሮኩ ቲቪ ይመልከቱ። እንዲሁም በስልኮ በኮምፒውተሩ አሊያም በቴሌቪዥኑ ሰብስክራይብ ያድርጉ።
Someone said to me in my career in the sales and marketing space, Helen, be proud and own your story. You know, who you are as an individual, what you bring to the table is enough. And that meant a lot to me, especially, you know, many of us as immigrants here. I came when I was 17 years old, never really had a mentor like you mentioned. So I think to me, I want you to talk about this. What does it mean to own your story as you grow in the space that you're in?
I guess for me, I credit that to my parents, in all honesty. And this is probably something that's somewhat unique to our community, that we're constantly being told, you come from a long line of leaders back home, whether they be, you know, on one side generals, or whether they be, you know, business people or academics and whatnot. And so there was very much of an expectation from the very beginning that not being successful was not acceptable. And it was not an option. And from that perspective, I think it created an internal drive to say, okay, each step that I take, it's a springboard to the next. And I think for me, that was very much an important part. So I have to credit that to my mom and dad.
I think this is a great country that gives you opportunities. We need to utilize that opportunity. I think when we are mid-management, we have proven that to be a good managers. That's why we get to that level. But I think whether it's competency or anything, I don't know, people are stuck in that level, afraid of to jump into the next level, to the executive level. To get there, you have to be relevant, you have to be known. Your managers, your higher ups need to know what you do. And our culture is very hardworking, very loyal to our work, and that has to take the next step. They need to know. We need to exhibit that to them. When you go to the executive level, what's required is to make judgment or decision by looking at relevant data. I go back to that culture that we always fail in selling ourselves. We need to talk about ourselves, our achievements, and our success. And your networking is very important because everyone wants to do business with the people that they know.
Excellent. Professor, what's your take?
Like my colleague said, you should never, ever apologize for your success. You have to respect and own your success, and you have to own you. You have to celebrate you. In our community, Helen, we're confusing confidence with guranya. You know, so let's not just say, oh, we're not, our culture kind of subdues us from speaking. No, we are afraid of the community calling us guranya. And so let's celebrate people who try, who work hard, and celebrate yourself. Don't be afraid to speak at what you are doing, what you have done, not to brag, not to put people down, but to let them know I can help you. This is what I'm doing, you can follow me. And this is good ownership of it and announcing it and also teaching others about it. Now, I want to follow up with one of my colleagues. Some of us are fortunate enough to have parents or family line that tell you, don't let us down, follow your trend. But I'm going to tell you that all of us, we have these heroes. We heroes that we own and we should emulate as Ethiopians. Those of you who have parents who work hard to put you to school, listen to them. Honor them. Look around. They are your heroes who go up and work really hard so you can go to schools. And so yes, gurrenya is not a good term. Own it. Be proud of your parents, your heredity, and your Ethiopianism. That's what makes us winners.
Ahmed Lalshuhulu. Don't get offended, but I'm gonna try to be frank because this is a family. We're in a family. So, you know, we are really very proud people. So I'm challenging the next generation. What is your story? Because my generation really wasted our time telling our ancestors' story because we didn't make our own story. So what is the next Gurra story that we want to tell? And I want to urge you, really, be Gurranya and come up with that Gurra that generations in the future are going to talk about. And I think our country is in a renaissance. I think our culture is in a renaissance. But we just can't talk about it. We have to be part of it. We have to help it and lift it up together.
That's a great point. Everyone is making some great points. You know, I want to, touch up on that. There is a perception here in the U.S. about Ethiopian Americans or, just as an immigrants. But how do we change that perception that we are much more than what it is? You guys are a testament here because of your leadership skills and what you've been able to accomplish in your individual careers. But collectively, how do we tell our stories differently? And how do we change the perception that we have in the business space? So Aaron, if you can kick that off for us.
Frankly, it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not transparent, but hard work and just realizing perseverance, and when you have obstacles in front of you, that there are workarounds. Those things will serve you best. Every one of us here has fallen. There is no substitution for effort. Do not give up on hard work as kind of a driver. Without that, you will not be able to change people's mindsets. Don't worry. There's going to be people that look at you that are going to say there's nothing that you can offer. That's fine.
That's on them.
That's on them.
Right.
In fact, I usually kind of smile and I realize they have no idea who they're dealing with. And I take care of things on my own terms. Those things should not discourage you. They should not anger you. they should fuel you. They should fuel you and realize that the next time they see, they're gonna know who I am. But it's not about convincing them to know you as being successful. If you have succeeded around them, it's your internal drive. And I guarantee you, if not the second, third attempt, the fourth, fifth, you'll get it.
That's great. That's great. Zelisha, how do you talk about the perception issue?
Well, that perception issue exists because we look different, we speak different, we came from different area. We need to accept that. But what we have is a very strong work ethic, a genuine care, and we're committed. And I see many of my community people working in many hotels. And we are just afraid of talking about our successes and accepting what it is. Once we really exhibited what we do is best, then we need to excel. We need to use references. We need to learn more. And I think we can achieve that. Using as a reference, in our community, we have everything. We have lawyers, we have professors, you see here. We have in every aspect, we have very successful people, but we fail to use them as reference. We need to follow them and learn the path they followed and become successful. And that's the main problem that we are having.
Okay. Professor, what do you see is the gap?
We're shy of speaking about ourselves, but we're even more reluctant to speak about other people's success. We need to change. We need to be happy and respectful for others' success. When you lift up people who are successful, you're creating a role model for yourself and your children.
Yep.
And so the first thing we want to do as a community is seek out those who are in place, celebrate them, thank God for them, and then see if they can be helpful to you, your children, your friends. Second, don't be afraid of success and don't be afraid of failure. I think you have a lot of sports people here. I ran marathons. So try to find what your marathon is. Go for it and don't be afraid to tell, I finished the marathon yesterday. And if somebody tells you, don't be afraid to celebrate them and talk about them. Professional career, business is a sports game. It needs a team on both sides. And so to me, I really want to encourage us to get over the handicap of discouraging people who want to do something. We quickly start by saying, oh, you know, that doesn't work. Oh, you start explaining away why it will not work before the person finishes telling you what the dream that they're trying to invite you to is.
Right.
And so let's celebrate success. Let's not be afraid of failure. And yes, don't call people guranya when they try to tell you what they're doing.
I think the space I am in is even a lot more difficult than the business world. It's because it's not based on resume. I have to get elected to get my fellow workers to get to where I am at, and to just lay just a foundation of where I am at for you. The labor movement in this country was really started by immigrants, but I find myself being the first ever immigrant as an executive at the AFL-CIO, the first refugee to be an executive at the AFL-CIO, the first black man ever to be an executive at the AFL-CIO. And that happened because, I'm going to tell you, because I'm Guranya. I never thought that I was any less than any white guy that I was working with. I didn't look for them to lead me. I wanted to lead them. But that doesn't happen unless you also own up to your Americanness, especially today in this country. In this great country of ours, I call this country our country, all of you should. There are people who want to put us on a scale and measure how American you are. If anybody is more American than anybody else. If you were born here, or if you raised your hand and say, pledged to be an American and became a naturalized citizen, you are no less an American than Donald Trump is. Don't let anybody or anything tell you otherwise. Unless we realize that, we're never gonna get there because we become grateful. Because we say, oh, we're Ethiopians and Americans are doing this for us, and we become grateful. Yes, we should be grateful, but being grateful does not mean I need to be grateful and sit down. Being grateful requires you to stand up and fight, not sit down and just be grateful and appreciate what people give you. And I think that's what, not only for Ethiopians, all immigrants in this country to understand. No one owns America. This belongs to all of us. And unless we really realize that, we're gonna be halfway grateful, one of our legs here, one of our legs back home, and when your legs are that spread, it becomes very hard to walk and move forward. And I just want all of us to own our Americanness.
That's a great way to wrap this conversation. I could spend hours with all of you. The wealth of knowledge, the wealth of experience that you bring to the table is tremendous, and I'm really proud of every single one of you for taking the time to share your knowledge, your expertise with our community. I know this is just the beginning, just like this is our first event. And we are inspired by your leadership and what you've done individually and also collectively what you're doing for the community. So thank you so very much for making the time. I appreciate you. And this concludes our business panel discussion. All of their bios are on our website. You can get to know them. So thank you for all of you. Thanks for coming.
ሶስቱን የኢቢኤስ ቴሌቪዥን ቻናሎችን በሮኩ ቲቪ ይመልከቱ። እንዲሁም በስልኮ በኮምፒውተሩ አሊያም በቴሌቪዥኑ ሰብስክራይብ ያድርጉ።
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ፕሮግራማችንን እየቀጠልን ነው። አሁን ደግሞ እንደገና ወደ ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ የመጨረሻው ፓነል ዝግጅታችን ላይ እየወሰድኳችሁ ነው። ይሄ ደግሞ ውይይት የነበረው ፎሎ ዮር ፓሽን የሚል ውይይት ነው። ከተለያዩ አርት እና ከክሪኤቲቭ ኤሪያ የመጡት እንግዶች ነው የተጋበዙላችሁ። ከእንግዶቼ መሀል ባስተዋወቃችሁ በመጀመሪያ አቶ መሳይ ጌታሁን ሙቪ ፕሮዲውሰር እና ዳይሬክተር ላምባዲና የሚባለው ሙቪ በቅርብ ጊዜ አዘጋጅቶ ያቀረበ ነው። አዚ ተስፋይ አክትረስ ናት። ጄን ዘ ቨርጂን የሚባል ድራማ እዚህ ሀገር ትሰራለች። አንቱ ያዕቆብ ቲያትር አክተርና ራይተር ናት። እንደዚሁም ደግሞ ማይክል አስመሮም አፍሪካን ቡዲስት ካልቸር የሚባል መጽሐፍ በቅርብ ጊዜ ጽፎ ያቀረበ ነው። ሄለን አማረ ሺዝ አ ግራፊክ ዲዛይነር። ይህንን ዝግጅት እንግዲህ ደግሞ ማደሬት የምታደርግልን ኑኑ ዋቆ ናት። እስቲ ወደዛ ልውሰዳችሁ፣ ከኛ ጋር ቆዩ።
Welcome to the state. Thank you so much for making time to be present today at the Empower the Community Weekend. It is a pleasure to be here to have this conversation with you. And I also want to say thank you to the audience. We are here because we are inspired by you and also because we want to inspire the next generation. So we definitely have a very diverse background of entrepreneurs, whether it's social or just career-driven. And none of the path that you all chose is the wrong path. It is your passion. How were you able to navigate choosing your passion in between the ones that your parents were hoping that you would pursue?
I think a lot of people can relate to our parents' expectations. When they first come here, they want, us to be doctors, lawyers, accountants. Those are like the top 3 dream jobs because that means some type of financial security. So I knew at an early age that I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't even really have the outlet. So it was a constant doing it in secret for a long time. And like doing it in my, in my bedroom, doing monologues and singing in the shower. And my mother always did encourage my writing. She really loved that I wrote, but she didn't know like how that was going to connect to the acting thing. And then it wasn't until I decided that I would study acting in a master's program, get an MFA in it, that she finally said, oh, you can get like a degree in this, like a master's? So that's kind of, I took some time to get there, but it was a juggling act for me, and it continues to be that, but.
Awesome. Just to add on to what she said, I too had the same option. I had 4 options. Career-wise was a lawyer, engineer, doctor, or disgrace to the family. So I chose to be an engineer. So when I started my freshman year of college, I was doing computer engineering. And the way I changed it was because I was failing. And then things kind of got weird because I kind of started saying I'm an entrepreneur. But eventually, they started to believe in me when I really showed them I was really passionate in it. My freshman year of college, I started a clothing line. Then as I got older, I started like an online company and so on. And then this year, I published my first book called African Booty Scratcher. We'll talk about later on.
There is a motivation behind why you chose the fields that you all have chosen. What are those motivations, and how were you able to put those motivations to actually tangible, acts to be where you are today?
Passion wasn't necessarily films, but I think from earlier on, I've developed a passion to communicate. And so you're asking the purpose behind our passion. And so the purpose behind anything I've ever done in life has always been to kind of communicate, I've always enjoyed, and the means of communication could take various forms. It could be writing, it could be acting, it could be directing, it could be producing an event. And so whatever it is, I've always enjoyed communicating content to an audience. When I was 17, I just saw a picture in my mind of me doing films. And again, but the point of doing films was never films in itself, but it was to tell a story. I've always been passionate about telling good stories to an audience. And so that's the driving force, or that's the purpose, I think, for me behind doing films.
I had an off-stage conversation with you, Ozzy, of the conversations you've been having while you were interacting with the audience.
Yeah.
And you said, you were talking to some young girls that really touched you.
They're probably here. I was lucky the last hour to get to talk to a bunch of you guys, and I got a lot of questions about being Habesha and going into acting. And I went to Berkeley and I went to business school, and it took me a long time to kind of figure out that I really loved acting. And I got really lucky. So in high school, I did a lot of commercials and print work to make money as a side job. And I got an opportunity to audition something my last semester, and I ended up getting it. So I had an easy start to it. But after a year or two of being on a show, I fell in love with it, and then I couldn't get a job. So with anything that you love, there's going to be hard times, and especially if it's special. And we were talking about the fact that there's no job security in anything, even though it seems like it. You see people that have been working for a company for 40, 50 years getting laid off, and you get one life. So if you're going to really put yourself out there, it should be for something that you really, really love. And it's hard when your immediate family doesn't totally understand a passion that you have, but they'll get behind it once it starts moving. And so you just have to faith in yourself that you get one shot at finding your career and your passion, and so you won't know until you experience it. And there was a girl I met earlier who wasn't totally sure if acting was her thing, but I'd say, take classes and try to do, theater production and see if you like it. And if you do, keep going. If you don't, then and you can try something else. But really put yourself out there and try to figure it out. And it's never too late.
And Haley, you're in a genre that there are not too many women that are graphic design developers. How did you know that that is something that you want to do, and this is what my passion is and I'm going to pursue it?
Well, let me tell you, I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do. I fell into it. Does anybody remember MySpace?
Yes.
Yeah, so when MySpace came out, I would play around designing pages, and that's how I learned about HTML and coding. And from there, I decided to design my own Sweet 16 flyer when I was in high school, and from there, it just kept going. I just kept doing it. It was a hobby. It was a passion of mine that I would just do on the side, but I saw the way people responded to it, and I figured out it could make money, so I kept going. As far as what my parents thought of it, my parents never really pressured me to be anything other than successful. So it wasn't really a matter of convincing my family, what route I wanted to go. It was more of showing them what it was, because it's so new, and like you said, not a lot of people are in my field, especially in the Habesha community.
Right.
So yeah, that's my story.
A lot of us, even myself, I struggled in trying to figure out where my passion is. But not only that, but matching that passion to a purpose. How does it serve my community? How does it serve the larger global community? What are some of the characteristics that people should pay attention to when they are pursuing their passion, and how to actually make it more impactful to the community that they're going to be serving?
So the first step, I think, is checking if you really enjoy this thing and that you could do it with or without the money. And then the second piece of it is asking yourself, can I keep doing this? Is that you don't choose it, it chooses you. And I think that is kind of goes, that transcends art. Any type of art that you decide to do, it chooses you, meaning there is nothing else that you could see yourself doing. People will tell you that you can't. People will tell you that it's pointless. People will tell you, like, how is this supposed to improve our community? How is this, you're just on stage talking, or you're just filming images. And I said, that's what I want to do. How can I speak for people who can't speak for themselves? And then it became connected to wanting to alter the way people see each other.
I'd like to add on one thing to that. I just want to say, as far as global impact, I feel like everyone has the responsibility of being their best selves. I think that's always where it starts. So as long as you really pay attention to your passion and are true to it and are genuinely acting on what you want to do, not what someone else is telling you, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's society at all, ignoring that, going to your passion and cultivating your true self is what's really going to help impact the rest of the world. Because once you focus on yourself and once you are whole, once you're full, then you can continue to give that to other people, to bring that to other people's lives in anything that you choose to do on a daily basis. So I strongly advocate that.
I'm going to add to that too. I think for me, it's a bit of a different situation because for me, purpose is so important, and it really boils down to community and service. About 4 years ago, I really became clear about what I wanted to do. I really love being on television. I like having a schedule and going to work every day. I remember walking to go see a movie, and I called my best girlfriend and I started crying. And it was like, I've had the rare opportunity of getting everything that I wanted for myself. Why didn't I feel happy? I thought, when you get that thing that you think is gonna make you happy and you get it and it doesn't, it's the worst feeling in the world. And I had realized that as much as I love being an actress, and that for me was a passion, I didn't feel personally like I was serving in the way that I felt like I needed to with my family and experience. But I volunteered for a school there. Through a series of events, their meal program got pulled, and I figured out a way to design jewelry to raise money. And in 3 months, I sold enough to feed all 200 kids breakfast and lunch, and it was like coming from a career that has so much resistance, it was the easiest thing. And it was like just being of service. And for 2 years, I only did that, and I totally stopped acting. And then about 2 years, then I had that same sad feeling again because I missed my passion. I had found a purpose of service and community and helping, these kids in Ethiopia. And then, so I went back to acting, and I started on Jane the Virgin pretty short after that, and I did both. For me, my passion and my purpose aren't one thing. And I think that I have so many friends that have found one thing, and that's awesome. But if you haven't, it can be two separate things. There are no rules to anything that we say or what we do. You have to find what fits you. And I really believe that if there's something you really love to do, or you found like a way to serve your community, but you still feel like maybe you're not creatively fulfilled, you can do more than one thing. You can make money doing both things, and you can help people in both ways. So I just want to say that.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ በዚህ ቆይታ እንደተደሰታችሁ በመተማመን ይሄ እንግዲህ አመታዊ ዝግጅት ነው በሚቀጥለው አመት እንደዚሁ በኦገስት 2018 ላይ በቅርብ ጊዜ ቀኑን አናውንስ እናደርጋለን ወደ አሜሪካ መምጣት የምታስቡ ሁሉ እንግዲህ ቀናችሁን እንድታስተካክሉ የኛ እንግዶች እንድትሆኑ ከዚሁ ጥሪ ያቀርባለሁኝ ፕሮግራማችንን ስለተከታተላችሁ በጣም አድርጌ አመሰግናችኋለሁ በሚቀጥለው ፕሮግራም አዳዲስ ዝግጅቶችን ይዘንላችሁ እንቀርባለን እስከዛው ደህና ቆዩ
Udom bambagalam bimalakatanye Sentun na yaw banta agaraya gabanyi